our newest sponsor, Jacinda Beeson of JL Beeson Consulting in Chicago, Illinois. We appreciate you and your support. We couldn't do it without you. So thank you for helping us sow seeds of encouragement and creativity with our audience. Another big shout out goes to Charlene Hood, who is listening, also from Chicago, Illinois. She's a part of the Speak Out World family.
Yes, and you can find Speak Out World on anchor.fm. For a list of all of our platforms where you can find Speak Out World, visit our website at speakoutworld.com. And on every episode, we do our best to bring you amazing artists, authors, creative entrepreneurs, and civic leaders who use creative ways of engaging with their communities. Today, we have an amazing author, educator, public speaker, and urban missionary, Randisha Fletcher, the winner of the 2017-2018 Public Voices Fellowship.
Yes, and Randisha is going to share with us her journey from a troubled childhood to facing the racism and sexism in the United States Marine Corps, to a completing her BA in creative writing and anthropology.
This is going to be a great interview, Dino. I'm really looking forward to this. So you all don't go away. We'll be right back with more Speak Out World. Amazing artist with us all the way from Arizona. It's Randisha Fletcher. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. How are you? Or afternoon for you.
Yes, great to have you. Listen, thank you so much for joining Speak Out World and engaging our audience and telling them your amazing story and your artwork and all your community service that you're doing. But before, I'm just going to let my co-host here, Dino L., kick it off with the first question for our viewing audience.
Hey, Randisha, listen, I'm a native also of Arizona. I lived in Prescott, Arizona for a few years. My relatives still live there. So I'm familiar with Arizona. Beautiful place.
Yeah.
Listen, Randisha, you wrote about your young life in a book, Scratches, Needles, and the Glass Pipe, Coping with Rejection, Hurt, and Abandonment from a Drug-Addicted Parent. Can you speak out on how that experience has motivated you to serve others?
Yes, I can definitely do that. So when I grew up, my mother began using crack cocaine at my young age. And so we wound up on Skid Row, downtown Los Angeles. My dad was the stepdad that I was with. He was on crack as well. And so we just didn't have anything. We were going to the missions and we were hiding from the cameras, hiding from CPS, Child Protective Services. We didn't have enough to eat. There was no money and we were always looking for a place to stay. So as I got older, it was important that I understood that I am not going to live this way for the rest of my life. So I studied hard. And I graduated from high school a little early. Then I went into the Marine Corps and continued my service and got out and finished up my bachelor's, my master's, started up my doctorate, and I just knew that that I was going to make a difference. I've done work overseas, research in Fiji, and it was just important that I understood that that whole generational poverty was not going to follow me, and I wanted to speak life and light in my life at all times to make a difference. And it was important. And so it's not even giving back because my family is still challenged with homelessness to the third generation still. So
wow.
As long as I still have great nieces and great nephews in transition who are financially insecure, food insecure, and housing insecure. I'm going to keep working and pushing to make sure that I leave a legacy for my family.
Wow, that is amazing. Did during this time, and even as a young person with the things that you were going through, were you aware of the gift that you had as an artist, or was that something that you began to develop as you became older or once you got into the military?
When I was about 12, there was a lady named Dawn, and she was one of the Black volunteers at the Union Rescue Mission. And she was asking me, what did I want to do when I got older? And of course, I really wanted to be an artist. But growing up homeless, there's something about being an artist. There's no way that I'm going to be an artist because artists don't make money in my mind at that time.
That starving artist.
Yes, I was not going to be starving. I was not going to be homeless. There was no part of me that was going to be lacking with any dollar signs. And I was
all right.
So Dawn took me to this art store, and she bought me oil paints and paint brushes, and she bought me lava soap, and she bought me turpentine, and she told me to paint. And I started painting about 12, and I was writing around the same time. So the mantra that I have living to portraits is I'm a painter and a writer. And Dawn, and I don't know her last name, and I wish I could find her, but she was a volunteer who came and scooped me up and said, hey, you can do this. And she spoke that into my life.
And that's what's so amazing. Like, you never know who you're going to touch by encouraging them, by opening up their horizons in terms of with the arts, or whether it be with music, fashion design, math, science, and so shout out to Dawn out there, for reaching out to a young person and giving them that inspiration. I mean, is that part of why you identify, this term urban missionary? We talked about that in your intro, but how did you coin that term from your experience in your artwork?
Well, so as I was like with all the friends that I have a lot of international friends. And I'm known as DC in the community, not as Randicia. It's literally the DC. I'm almost like a noun. And
okay.
So when I go out there, it's not to let me go feed these people right here. It's let me go build relationships. Let me go make some friends. And so when my kids build these relationships with different people from around the world, it's beautiful. So it's yes, it's a missionary, but it's more of I've built some relationships. My kids have some powerful friends out there, and I call my kids third culture kids because they didn't get that typical American upbringing. It was very much so. If you come over here right now, my daughter's going to come out with a gold tray with some tea and some water bottles with you. And then my sons will come out too. They're going to come and shake your hand. They're going to speak to you. So it's very much so relational here with us. So they're that third culture kid. And so it's friendships, it's relationships rather than just missionary for me. Dawn was an urban missionary.
Yes.
Let me go make some friends. Let me go make some friends.
Yes. Go ahead, Dino.
Randicia, you created the nonprofit I Can Do All Things, which focused on teaching sustainability to alleviate poverty, and was the 2017-18 Tucson Public Voices Fellowship, a collaboration between the Women's Foundation of Southern Arizona and the University of Arizona. Can you explain how it reaches women in leadership roles and elaborate on those things for us?
I sure can. So after I got out of the Marine Corps, I remember I had some flip-flops on, and I was sitting, and I had my son. He was really young, and my son is autistic. And so I just had this boy who's like full of energy and everything and running around. And I got this random phone call from this guy, Dr. Park, saying, hey, you want to be a teacher? And I'm like, I don't know if I want to be a teacher. And so he called me in. I think I walked up in there in some flip-flops. And He hired me right then and there.
I just want to let you know that you're talking to an educator right here. So that's why it's even funnier that you walked in with some flip flops as well. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And a kid. So the kid in the flip flops, and so he hired me on the spot. He recognized that I was working on my master's degree, and he knew he couldn't keep me forever, but he needed me for that moment to kind of get the kids in line. And so, but as I was teaching, I started to understand that those kids are just like me. Those kids did not need me teaching them Chaucer or Shakespeare. They couldn't even say Chaucer half the time. And who was Chaucer and Shakespeare? They just didn't know. And so it didn't make sense for me to continue to teach them something that in my heart felt irrelevant. So I was sitting there folding laundry on the floor. I love sitting on the floor. I'm sitting on the floor now. And I just had this, God gave me a powerful vision at that moment of they needed sustainability education. They needed to be taught college preparedness. They needed to be taught financial stability. They needed be taught just all in public health awareness. They needed more than Shakespeare. They needed something deeper, just like I needed something deeper. And my husband and I were just talking about this yesterday. No one teaches us financial independence. So as an emerging developer right now, no one taught us these things. We had to go sit there and find someone who was talking, eavesdrop, interject in their conversation and say, can you teach us that too?
Exactly.
And to say, can you teach me that too? My mom used to say, you have not because you ask not, or your closed mouth be not fed. And so that's what I wanted to do for those kids because they didn't know what to ask for. Like you never improve on dancing or painting unless you get yourself involved. I'm a teaching artist right now too. Unless you continue to teach and to learn, that's how you get yourself involved. And so when I discovered to put together, I Can Do All Things, I call it ICDAT. It was because I wanted to teach intergenerationally. I wanted the older women to teach the younger women and the younger women to influence the older women. And that builds relationships. That builds leadership. Because a lot of times we try to cut our elders out and because we know everything at 20, you know how we knew everything at 20 years old.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to cut that out. I wanted us to bleed together and to learn together. I wanted the younger women to learn how to put that roast in the oven or whatever we're cooking. I wanted the younger girls to be able to teach the older ones, this is how you get on the computer and this is how you use an Excel spreadsheet. So there had to be a teaching points on both sides and we had to meet in the middle.
And it builds community. That's what you're building. You're building a sense of family and community. And you not only have one nonprofit, I Can Do All Things Inc., but you also co-founded another one, Refugee Resource Center. Tell us about that.
So with Refugee Resource Center, my kids were taking Taekwondo and my kids are black belts in Taekwondo. And I met this family, this lady named Athena, and she was a beautiful, beautiful sister to me. And her kids, they're in Uganda right now. And she asked me to teach her to write an essay. And I'm like, I do not have any time to sit there and truly teach from start to finish how to topic sentence, thesis statement, supporting details, conclusion, restate the thesis. There was no way for me to really go through that. It was too much, especially dealing with a second language learner during the 50 minutes of Taekwondo practice. It was just not possible. So I was talking to Athena and I recognized that there were some things in her that she needed a little bit more that was instead of just English. She kept saying her stomach hurt. And I'm like, your stomach hurts. And then it became convenient every single time. I was like, Athena, I need you to come here. Oh, my stomach hurts. And I was like, I wonder why her stomach hurts. And so I ended up asking her and I said, what's going on? And she's like, oh, in her broken English, my stomach hurts because she had a intrauterine IUD in her stomach. And the doctor didn't understand her enough to take it out. So I said, call him. So I used my little perfect English to talk to the doctor and they didn't understand and they took it out. She was dead 2 days later.
Wow.
Dead 2 days later. She fell dead on the floor in a hospital and because they didn't want to deal with her. One, because they were concerned about a virus at the time. And two, they just didn't understand her. And so I needed to be able to advocate for people. So, and it was the same thing happened with another young sister who was getting beat by her husband. And then she was supposed to, then a baby died in the process. There was too many children of color just passing away. And we as Pan-African people that live here in America, we weren't paying attention to our sisters and brothers that were coming here. And that bothered me. So I felt it was necessary. Someone took me to buy some paint. Someone took me and said, let me help comb your hair. Someone took me to buy me some jeans. Let me help my sister call the doctor at least. And let me help my other sister find affordable housing. Because we have to advocate. And the mission of the Refugee Resource Center is advocacy and education. Education is advocacy. And that's what we do here in Tucson. So I'm forever at an event. Last night we were at a funeral in the park because one of my sisters' grandfather passed away in Nuba Mountain, Sudan. So the advocacy is important. And they miss when they don't see me there. GC, where have you been? Where have you been? It's important that I'm there just in case they need something. And we as people have to make ourselves present in order for people to see that we are there to help and support and be family. That's important to me.
Wow. Randicia, that's what I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dino.
No, I was just going to ask if Randicia could just elaborate on some of her beautiful artwork that was behind her. Just give us a little information regarding that.
Yes. So this beautiful lady is called Bracelena Vaya Carnaval. And I love her so much. And everyone has a little story. And I would love to read you her story. It's short if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Please.
All right. I'm putting my glasses on. I'm showing my age. All right. So, Bracelena Vaya Carnaval. In Bahia, Salvador, the drum rhythms connect her to Mama Africa. Ella samba. She dances while they play capoeira. Jinga Ramos, the drums and the berimbau chant. Ella Bahia Carnaval. Ella samba. She dances to the smells of acarajé. De un gusto delicioso, spicy black-eyed pea fritters. Ella Vaya Carnaval. Ella Samba. For 5 days and 5 nights, the drum rhythms connect her to Mama Africa. She dances. She dances for spiritual freedom. She dances. She dances to the orishas. She dances. She dances in honor of her kidnapped ancestors. Soria Manina Negra in Bahia, Salvador. Bracelena Vaya Carnaval. So,
ooh.
Thank you.
We hope everybody can hear our snaps right here on the show.
All right.
My little secret is I'm a capoeirista, so I do practice capoeira, and I would be outside in the park right now doing capoeira with my kids. So we as a family do capoeira.
Now explain that for those who don't know. Explain what capoeira is.
So capoeira is an African martial arts. So it was like that, you know how we have nicknames, like my nickname, DC, right? And so we all had these nicknames to kind of to throw the slave masters off. And so it looks like we were out there dancing. The slaves were dancing. But soon as the slave masters leave, the drum beat changes. The drum beats will change. And then we're jinga and we're jinga. And we're practicing. And we're learning to fight to get away and to set ourselves free. In Brazil, they had the highest amount of slaves in the transatlantic slave trade. And so in understanding that, so we do practice capoeira, and this Bracelena, when she's going to the carnival, she's in honor of my ancestors, and she's in honor of myself, and I jinga. And I love to cook cottage, and black beans, and I love that. So this is one lady. And then we have this lady here. Her name is Boobies. And so she is in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I think we are super sexualized as a society where you can't even say boobies. If I say boobies, my son's going to run out of here and my daughter's blush. I'm like, no, understand that it's a natural part of life. It's just who we are. And I just remembered as a little girl, my mom never bought me a bra. And so it was just in honor of that and how my breasts are used to nourish my children, and I had so many friends who've had double mastectomies, and we almost feel like we lose our identity when we lose our breasts. And so this image here, Boobies, the story behind her talks about that. And so I definitely give honor and credence to my girl Boobies here.
Wow, Randicia, I love the fact that you bring in all of, not just your art form, like even when you were telling the story, I mean, it's just so international. Like you have taken all of your experience from understanding what it means to be without as a child, to being in the military, traveling, and the arts, and just taking that and then, just making a beautiful melody of it artistically and giving it back to the world. And I just, again, I'm going to take 2 seconds. I fanned out earlier. You all don't know, viewers, before we got on the show. I fanned out a little bit before. So I'm going to take 2 seconds, to just fan out now. But your artwork, your writings, everything is just so amazing. And I just want to know, when you speak to other artists, how, when they're just like, oh, you're so accomplished, like your work has been in the Museum of Contemporary Art and the University Arizona Museum of Art. How do you get a platform like that to be able to, get out all of this artwork and energy that you have to be able to share with other people?
I'm going to go back to that. You have not because you ask not. Wow. And even the scriptures tell us that knock and the door will be open. And I think we as people of the African diaspora, we kind of sometimes will, like my uncle, for example, he's like, don't talk to those people over there. And he's very pronounced about that. And that's something very cultural about us, to kind of stand back and to be reserved. But I understood that I have a story to tell, and I'm important. And important in my own light. And it's not saying that I'm putting myself higher than I ought to be, but I believe that so many people need to be able to hear stories of accomplishments. And a lot of times we, as people of the African diaspora, we are seen as coming from the S-Ho nations, you know what I mean? Or those urban places over there. We are considered the thoses and the thems. And so I want to make it clear that, yeah, I'm one of those and thems, but you better not call me that. You better call me Randicia, and you better understand what you're dealing with right here. I'm commonly known as sandpaper grit number 60 because I'm a little harsh. You either like it or you love it, and we have to get on these platforms to be able to express, why am I harsh like this? I have a beautiful poem that I can't say over the radio waves because it's very very harsh. But my mom used to have this saying. She'll say, "I'm such an effing lady," and the paradox of that, of being a lady of the courts, but having this mouth and this attitude to kind of go along with this. That's how we are. We're harsh, we're hard. My grandmother was like that. She was the seamstress for Mayor Tom Bradley, the first mayor, black mayor.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And so for her, she was a gun-toting, yielding, and she'll cuss you out and drink her vodka. She was a hardcore alcoholic, but she had that gun. But she was an effing lady, too. And it's just, And I kind of laugh about it. It's when someone said, "You're grit number 60, you're kind of harsh and you're a little intimidating." I'm not intimidated. I'm just going to tell you the way it is. You're not going to walk over me. You're not going to say anything to me. And yes, I feel that I'm approachable, but if you feel that you can't, that's something inside of you because you never took the time to get to know who I am. These platforms are important for me. And once people understand, and I've got these platforms from people in the Tucson Public Voices program. And one of my friends is running for Pima County Recorder right now here in Tucson, Go Gabby. And I know that she'll win that one. But we pull each other along and she pulls me up and says, "Hey, Randicia, I got something for you." And I'm like, "Hey, Gabby, I'm doing something. Come on through." And I think that's important that we leverage each other. And she's an Indigenous woman here in America. So these platforms are important for us to get our point across. And sometimes I feel like people don't want to hear someone with the name Randicia come and talk for them. And I'm still marginalized in a lot of ways. And also, I sometimes see that Black men don't want don't want the Black woman to it's still some patriarchal systems going on too. So, I just do what I can.
I hear you. When you said that about, being such a wonderful lady, it reminds me of the comedian Adele from Chicago. So yeah. That was her tagline right there, but we know that we have to constantly deal with these issues, and even in the work that you've been doing in the community, you're dealing with issues of homelessness, you're dealing with issues of addiction, all of those things. I want to go back a little bit as well and talk about how you and your husband, you all actually, let me make sure that I have this right. You all started the Harris Fletcher Social Enterprise, and it was geared towards helping Americans, descendants of slaves, and Black Indigenous people of color. So, as you were just talking about that, how did this come into play? Like, how did you and your husband come together to be able to now provide some resources for African American people that have been enslaved, their ancestors have been enslaved?
Well, we know that there is a wealth disparity and there's a big wealth gap. And I think we're like 280 something years behind economically as American descendants of slaves. So knowing that, we knew we wanted to help and build. He comes from a household where his mom was abused and that they were homeless too. And then he was in the Army. And then knowing that when I met him, he had like $100 in his account and he was about to pay for a $60 birthday party for his daughter. And I'm just thinking, really? But that's what we do. That's what we do as people. We're going to get paid again. Yes, we're going to get another paycheck if we don't lose our jobs. But we're not learning how to be financially responsible. So I'll talk him along the way because somebody taught me because I asked. And so then we wanted to continue to build. And then we had a friend who was sleeping on a cot. He's 80 years old. He was caught at the rescue mission here in town. And we went and scooped him up. And then we had a blind man who a social service agency called us and said, did we have a space for him? And we just brought him here, and he was here in the gallery. And so we needed to do something. And so we got this house together and we made it into like a Jack and Jill type house here, duplex type here, where they can stay. And we take care of them because they don't have the resources. And so what I sell from prints and what I sell from tours, and he goes to work. And so we take care of those people. And so we decided to do this fourplex, which is turned into a threeplex as of yesterday when we spoke to our architect. Okay. We took a program, this class that was like 7 weeks called Scale Up. And it taught us about sustainability and it taught us about the process. And so we just then networking. And we didn't stop here. And then it sounds like nothing's going to happen. And then we go to the next person. And they're like, talk to this person over here. And we're like, talk to this person over here. But we all talk to that person over there. And so we just kept talking to this person who sent us to that person. And now we have architectural plans. We have a funding meeting on Friday. They love us.
Amazing.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. I'm so excited because it's like when you commit your life to something important, the doors just keep opening. And so we're still looking for those fundings for Black women, people of color, disabled veterans, and et cetera. My husband, he's a disabled veteran too. And so we just, we're looking for funding. We're looking for ways to be able to support more people, and not just to put them in some housing so they can pay cheap rent, but to teach them what we learned.
Yes.
We got to teach them what we learned. And because our housing is, we call it an urban food forest. So we're planting trees where they can kind of pick from the trees. They have their own plots and gardens.
Yes.
Super excited. Oh my gosh, they were so excited. They didn't even want to use shovels. They just wanted to use their hands to dig the dirt. It was just super exciting. And my kids are involved in this. I plant a garden. I have 3 gardens here in this house, 1 indoors, 1 on the front porch, and then a backyard garden. And then we plant over there. I got plants in the mail yesterday, and it's just beautiful to be able to create a forest and to reduce the heat index here in Tucson. That's important.
Do you see this, like this, how it's just, it may sound like it's here, there, but it's still all coming together to create one collective community. Dino, take it on over.
Listen, Randicia, I wanted to ask you to describe the Living to Portraits Mobile Museum and pop-up library. I just want to get a little insight on that.
So it's a small space, and so people either come here because of COVID. It's just a private tour. It's about an hour and a half, and then I go through all of the pictures. There's about 40 in here, and I tell the story. And then it's introspective. And so it's geared towards, let me think about me. How do I connect to this image? How do I connect to the world? How can I be a better me? I think that's important. I don't think we do that enough as people. We're not introspective. We're so busy pointing the finger and blaming instead of saying, how can I fix Randicia? What better can I do today than I did yesterday? How can I just be a better me? And this museum, this mobile museum is that. And then I also take, I have collections like the Adolescent Boy collection here. I'll take parts of the collection into a place and talk about it. And then we can do some artwork. And the pop-up library here, I love it because I love to read the stories to the children and say, what is your heart in this? How do you feel about this? And then we can write a little piece, and then we paint. And so it's like the best of 2 worlds. We get to paint and write. And so that's like my favorite thing to do in the whole wide world is to paint and to write. So I think it's
your excitement. Your excitement is contagious.
I love that.
It's contagious, Randicia. It's contagious. I'm sure that the listeners have to understand your excitement is contagious.
Oh, I love it. I love painting. I love books. I love children. I love to be read to. I could sit there and listen to a story. And my kids always, Mommy, can you read us a story? And so so beautiful. And then the last book that I published, my middle son wrote the foreword in the book. And my older son did a lot of the artwork, and my daughter did too. So her images on the cover of the book and stuff like that. So I love that we work together as a family, and my husband helped edit it. So everything we do, we believe in cooperative economics. They will not leave here at 18. We are building a compound because we're going to keep
All right.
Yes.
You pay nobody else's rent. You better stay right here, and we're going to build another one, and we're going to build another one. We're just going to keep on building it right here.
All right.
Mm-hmm. You know, Dino L, like you said, I mean, you can feel her excitement. It's contagious. But more than that, she has had the ability, again, I go back to that as an artist, as an activist, to take your passion and not only be able to inspire other people, but to be able to actually reach other people to make a difference in their lives. So if they're reading, if they're reading and they enjoy that, bam, you got them. If you're a visual person, you have the artwork, you have them there. I mean, your flow in terms of bringing the international stories and language together, it's just very powerful. And that's what this podcast is all about. When we say Speak Out World, it's for platforms for artists and activists like you that are, yes, working together with your art and your activism, touching people's lives and changing people's lives. And I mean, it's just an amazing thing, the things that you're doing, and the things that you've had to overcome. Like, we really need to have you back on this program, because there are some hurting children out there now that maybe they've lost their parents to COVID, or maybe their parents are really struggling, and they need
hope.
They need a dawn in their life. They need a dawn in their life to change, to just turn their lives around. I know that we're running out of time, but before we go, I mean, how can folks get in contact with you? Tell us about any other upcoming projects you have that you want us to be on the lookout for, because we're going to have you back. So don't worry, we will have you back on the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Well, you can follow me on Instagram at Living Two Portraits. Also, the Urban Forest Project by HF. And so that Urban Forest Project is super important to me because it builds community. And also, you can visit my website that just popped up at www.harrisfletcher.com. And so the things that I have coming up, or we're building right now, and we're emerging developers, and we want to be able to start purchasing some more property, put some housing up there, sell them, keep one, so my brother who's homeless here in town, we can have a space for him. And so we want to continue to build a community, build my family, and teach about cooperative economics. That's Kwanzaa principles right there. And we teach Kwanzaa every year to our kids. We have a big celebration because we want them to understand that we got to do this together. I sure appreciate you all inviting me today. Thank you so much. This was beautiful, and look forward to seeing you guys again soon.
Yes. We will have you back real soon. We know that you have dropped some pearls and gems for all the viewers out there. And I'm telling you, it's just so inspiring. Like, if you all want to learn more, check her out on harrisfletcher.com. Find out what they're doing. As you all can see, they have nonprofits, and they're reaching out to young people, to the homeless community. So,
people of color.
Yes, check them out, support them. Listen, this has been a great show. I am your host, Jewel L.
And I'm your host, Dino L.
And we just want to remind you out there that you have a voice, so don't be afraid to speak out world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rendicia. Thank you so much.